Man armed with a hatchet bursts into a daycare in Brazil.
Reports say 4 children are dead, while 4 more are severely injured. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I am Randy Bernardino.
And I am Nina Richie Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. LTFRB issues warning against overloading, overcharging, and colorum vehicles. Meralco assures power supply is sufficient this holiday break. Japan vows to provide Philippines and other nations with military equipment. China deploys warships and aircraft near Taiwan. And French President Emmanuel Macron counts on Chinese leader Xi Jinping to bring Russia to its senses.
Au respect de la Charte des Nations Unies.
The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board warns public utility vehicle or PUV operators not to overload and overcharge passengers. JD Mahinay files this report.
The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board or LTFRB issues a warning against public utility vehicle operators who will overload and overcharge their passengers. LTFRB Chairman Chofilo Guadis III says overloading is not allowed in public transportation as it may endanger the lives of those inside the vehicles. He asserts overcharging is prohibited and transport companies should strictly follow the fare matrix provided. The LTFRB chief says colorum or drivers operating without proper authority is likewise prohibited by law. He states those who will violate transportation laws will face heavy fines and penalties. He reminds operators to ensure passengers like the elderly, persons with disabilities, and pregnant women are given priority seating. He says health protocols should be followed and animals should be correctly carried. The LTFRB chief also encourages the public to remain vigilant and observant of certain situations that they think may violate their rights as passengers. The LTFRB cautions the public as a surge of travelers is expected during this long weekend vacation. JD Mahinay for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Department of Transportation, or DOTR, has ordered faster immigration screening for international travelers departing the country during the long holidays. The DOTR issued the directive in anticipation of a massive exodus of passengers at airports. The Ninoy Aquino International Airport, or NAIA, alone is expected to receive around 2 million passengers this long weekend. Earlier, DOTR Secretary Jaime Bautista, together with Department of Tourism or DOT Secretary Cristina Frasco, conducted inspections at airport terminals. Bautista said they have added screeners and security personnel to speed up the screening process for passengers. They expect not only international travelers, but also domestic travelers going to the provinces for vacation to flock to airports.
Airport authorities have reminded the public on the implementation of the terminal reassignments at Ninoy Aquino International Airport or NAIA, effective April 16. Brian Ko, Senior Assistant Manager of Manila International Airport Authority, or MIA, says the reassignments were made to balance terminal capacity. Under the Schedule and Terminal Assignment Rationalization or STAR program, Terminal 2 will be exclusively used for domestic flights. Currently, Philippine Airlines or PAL uses Terminal 2 for their international flights. Ko explained that Terminal 2 was not designed for international flights. Hence, immigration counters are not sufficient, resulting in long queues. MIA ensured that the flight schedules during the transition will be smooth. Starting April 16, PAL flights to Singapore, Ho Chi Minh, Hanoi, and Phnom Penh will be transferred back to Terminal 1. Meanwhile, flights of Jetstar Japan, Jetstar Asia, Scoot, China Southern Airlines, and Starlux Airlines will be transferred from Terminal 1 to Terminal 3. On June 1, Ethiopian Airlines and Jeju Air will be transferred from Terminal 1 to Terminal 2, while all international flights of PAL will be transferred from Terminal 2 to Terminal 1 on June 16. On July 1, all domestic flights of AirAsia from Terminals 3 and 4 will be transferred to Terminal 2.
Manila Electric Company, or Meralco, assures the public that there is a sufficient supply of electricity this holiday break. Meralco asserts their technical team is prepared in case they will receive reports of sudden or unexpected power problems. The company also advises consumers it will temporarily close business centers starting today until April 10, 2023. Meralco reminds those who will leave their homes to make sure they have turned off their power and not to leave any cords plugged into the walls. Families must make sure they have installed proper electrical connections to avoid overheating.
The Philippines and the United States will hold a 2+2 ministerial dialogue in Washington, D.C. this coming April 11. In a statement, the U.S. State Department says that the purpose of the discussion is to deepen and strengthen the security and economic relations of the two countries. Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo and Defense Secretary Carlito Galvez will meet with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin III in Washington. The U.S. State Department says during the meeting, Blinken and Austin will reaffirm America's ironclad commitment to its alliance with the Philippines. The United States recognizes its significant contribution to the peace, stability, and prosperity of the Pacific region for over 70 years. Aside from deepening the bilateral security and economic partnership, the ministerial meeting will also strengthen the cooperation between the two countries in promoting a free and open, as well as connected, prosperous, and resilient Indo-Pacific region. The officials will also commemorate the 75th anniversary of the Fulbright program in the Philippines and celebrate people-to-people ties.
The Japanese government will provide equipment to armed forces of like-minded nations supporting the rule of law. The move aims to strengthen the defense capabilities of friendly countries to confront security threats in the region, including China's military buildup in the Indo-Pacific. Among the 4 Asia-Pacific nations that will benefit from the new grant assistance are Malaysia, the Philippines, Bangladesh, and Fiji. The grant, called the Official Security Assistance, or OSA, is intended to create a favorable security environment for Japan. According to Cabinet Secretary Hirokazu Matsuno, the move will help prevent China's unilateral attempts to change the status quo by force, particularly in its maritime assertiveness in the South China Sea. The Kishida government has allocated $15 million to fund OSA for the 4 nations this year. The program will focus on maritime and aerial surveillance, disaster response, and other forms of humanitarian equipment and activities related to UN peacekeeping operations.
The Senate, House of Representatives, Supreme Court, and Cabinet continue to enjoy the trust of the public based on the fourth quarter survey of the Social Weather Station. The December 10 to 14, 2022 survey showed that the public satisfaction with these institutions remained very good. The SWS survey showed the Senate with the highest net satisfaction rating of 68%, followed by the House of Representatives with 56%. The Supreme Court, on the other hand, showed a 55% satisfaction rating, and the Cabinet of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. received plus 50%. The fourth quarter's SWS survey used face-to-face interviews of 1,200 adults nationwide. 300 each were interviewed from Metro Manila, balance Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao.
Pag-asa says partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated rain showers or thunderstorms are forecasted over Metro Manila and the rest of the country. In its 4 p.m. forecast, Pag-asa explains the isolated rain showers are due to the localized thunderstorms. Moderate winds and moderate waters will continue to prevail in northern Luzon. The rest of the country will have light to moderate winds and slight to moderate waters. Coming up, an attack on a daycare in Brazil leaves 4 children dead. NATO foreign minister is concerned about Russia-China ties. And Care for Humanity responds to struggling Vanuatu residents. Stay tuned for more stories around the globe when we return.
Nyo ba na nagbago na ang panlasa ng Pinoy pagdating sa kung ano ang kanilang panonoorin?
We evolve as a person. So, nag-iiba rin yung preferences natin.
The TV industry is dying at online na raw ang magiging preferred medium natin.
Online, meron din yung mga snackable videos. Yan ang nakakaagaw ng oras sa panonood ng TV at sa panonood mo online.
Nabawasan na ba ang kalidad ng mga programa at pelikulang gawa ng Pinoy?
Sadly, outside of the MMFF for this year, mahihina po ang mga box office ng mga movies natin.
Ano na ba ang hilig panoorin ng mga kababayan natin ngayon? May say-say pa ba? Mag-reality check tayo.
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. 4 children are dead after a man burst into a daycare in the city of Blumenau, Brazil, armed with a hatchet-like weapon. After his attack, the 25-year-old man then left and rode his motorcycle to a police station where he turned himself in. 4 other children, 2 boys and 2 girls, suffered injuries and are reported in stable condition in hospital. Police say the fatalities are 3 boys and 1 girl, all between the ages of 5 and 7. The attacker struck his victims on the head. Police say the man jumped a wall to get inside. A teacher at the school says she managed to hide several children in a bathroom as the attacker killed his victims on the playground. Authorities say the man had at least 4 prior arrests, including 1 for stabbing his stepfather. The police chief says the attacker acted alone, adding he went to the playground to kill. No motive has been determined.
A Chinese anti-submarine helicopter and 3 warships had been detected around Taiwan. Taiwan's defense ministry said that 1 PLA aircraft and 3 planned vessels were detected after President Tsai Ing-wen met U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Taipei's Mainland Affairs Council accused Beijing of obstructing trade in the Taiwan Strait with on-site inspections on cargo and passenger ships. Chinese maritime authorities said they were stepping up patrols in the waters separating the island from mainland China without providing more details. Meanwhile, U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy welcomed Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen in California for a meeting. McCarthy vowed U.S. arms sales to Taiwan would continue in what he said was a proven strategy to dissuade aggression. Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen thanked the U.S. for their presence and unwavering support, reassuring Taiwan that they are not isolated and alone.
China vows to take firm and forceful measures after Taiwan leader Tsai Ing-wen held talks with U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Chinese spokesperson Mao Ning says the meeting violated China's sovereignty and territorial integrity. She asserts the engagement sent gravely wrong signals to Taiwan's independence.
相互勾连，以过境为幌子，纵容台独分裂分子在美国从事政治活动，开展美台官方往来，提升美台实质关系。此举严重违反一个中国原则和中美3个联合公报的规定，严重损害中方主权和领土完整，向台独分裂势力发出了严重的错误信号。中方将采取坚决有力措施，坚定捍卫国家主权和领土完整。
Terry Gao, the billionaire founder of tech giant Foxconn, announced he would seek presidential nomination of Taiwan's main opposition party. Local reports say Gao's decision to join the Kuomintang party is to avoid war with China. He believes there is a risk that war may break out anytime, hence Tsai's Democratic Progressive Party must be voted out. Gao made his announcement on the same day as President Tsai Ing-wen met U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy in California. Tsai will step down in May 2024 after serving the maximum 2 terms allowed.
French President Emmanuel Macron told his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping that he was counting on him to bring Russia to its senses. Macron has made clear he seeks to dissuade China from supporting Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
À la fois au respect de la Charte des Nations Unies, au strict respect des textes en vigueur en matière de nucléaire, et donc à tout ce qui permet la paix et la stabilité sur la planète. Et à ce titre, l'agression russe en Ukraine a porté un coup à cette stabilité. Elle a mis fin à des décennies de paix en Europe. Et je sais pouvoir compter sur vous, au titre d'ailleurs des 2 principes que je viens d'évoquer, pour ramener la Russie à la raison et tout le monde à la table des négociations.
Meanwhile, Xi said China is willing to work with France to avoid worsening the situation between Russia and Ukraine. Xi added Beijing also opposes the use of nuclear weapons and biochemical arms under any circumstances.
The head of NATO says China is propping up Russia's economy, which has been sputtering because of Western sanctions over the war in Ukraine. Jens Stoltenberg says China refuses to condemn Russia's aggression, adding it echoes Russian propaganda. British Foreign Secretary James Cleverly says he's also concerned about the close relationship between Russia and China.
Right the way across the alliance, we have seen discomfort with how close China has got to Russia recently. The recognition that the world, the interconnected world in which we live, is a smaller place than perhaps it was in the past, and that therefore we have to be very, very conscious of all potential risks and threats, not just to the Euro-Atlantic region, but also to the Asia-Pacific as well.
NATO foreign ministers have been holding talks in Brussels with their Asia-Pacific partners.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky gets a hero welcome in Poland. in his visit to cement ties. Ukraine signed an agreement with NATO member Poland for a joint production of military arms. Polish President Andrzej Duda says Poland is preparing to send all of its MiG-29 fighter jets to Ukraine. However, Zelensky's first visit to Poland was mixed with a warm welcome and a shun. Polish farmers demonstrate in streets over the influx of Ukrainian grain exports threatening their livelihood. While Poland's agriculture minister, Henryk Kowalczyk, had resigned as prompted by the protest, President Zelensky delivered his speech in Warsaw's royal castle. He addressed the farmers' complaints over Ukrainian grain. Polish officials say they've reached an agreement to solve the problem. In World War II, two countries were once in friction over the massacre of tens of thousands of Poles in West Ukraine, a previous Polish territory.
The United States unveiled details of new military aid for Ukraine's war against Russian forces. In a statement, the Pentagon will provide new military aid of $2.6 billion, including ammunitions for rocket systems, artillery rounds, and small arms. The package also features munitions for air defense systems, Abrams tanks, and anti-tank missiles that Washington previously promised to Kyiv. The Abrams tanks are expected to be delivered to Ukraine by fall of this year, while other Western heavy tanks have already arrived. Most of the $2.1 billion aid comes in the form of Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative funds, which pay for procurement of equipment from the defense industry. The remaining $500 million will arrive on the battlefield sooner.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is accusing Western spies of helping Ukraine launch terrorist attacks in Russia. Putin's remarks come just days after an explosion at a cafe in St. Petersburg killed a high-profile military blogger who supports Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. Moscow has said Ukraine orchestrated the attack with help from supporters of jailed critic Alexei Navalny. Hours before the Security Council meeting, Putin received new foreign ambassadors to Moscow at a ceremony in the Kremlin. He told U.S. Ambassador Lynn Tracy that Washington is responsible for the Ukrainian crisis. Putin adds that relations between Russia and the U.S. are in deep crisis. He also told the new EU envoy that Europe instigated geopolitical confrontation with Moscow.
Russian troops are on the offensive in the Lugansk Republic, targeting the Ukrainian military with high-precision artillery and heavy rocket launchers. RT correspondent Murad Gastiev tells us more.
The land around Kremenaya is rent and scarred by almost half a year of fighting. It continues night and day. This is but one episode. A Russian T-72 tank of the Ural Volunteer Battalion takes on a fortified Ukrainian position. Their task was to keep them busy.
We were told that some of our troops just to the right of the Ukrainians had become trapped. There were several killed and injured, and they couldn't be evacuated because of the crossfire. Our job was to suppress the Ukrainian position. We set out as a group, my tank and 2 infantry fighting vehicles.
The Ukrainian soldiers and mercenaries, who there are plenty of here, were waiting for them. No sooner had they arrived than an RPG round impacted on the barrel of the tank. It would be these soldiers' last ever shot. It is kill or be killed. No quarter is given. The T-72 and its commander, Kashe, gave the entrenched Ukrainians no opportunity to fire back. The next tank round takes out 3 more troops. Shell after shell decimates the Ukrainian position. Tanks are the bane of infantry and are one of the most feared weapons on the battlefield. This is why.
We had to help the injured, the critically injured. The guys had legs missing. The medics ran around in little vests trying to help them, and I'm in a huge tank, well protected. Danger doesn't come into it.
Tank crews are almost always highly superstitious folk. It comes with being the prime target on almost any battlefield. They were lucky. An RPG shell, round, rocket can penetrate a tank at the right angle. In this case, the RPG round hit the barrel. You can see shrapnel all over the place, but it caused no significant damage.
All I remember was a bright flash. The thermal dissipator on the barrel was torn apart.
So you were lucky.
More than lucky. God is on our side.
And so it goes. A terrible, grinding war of attrition that is reshaping the very geographical landscape. Same scenes duplicated for hundreds of kilometers. And when this ends, the world will have changed too. Morad Gazdiev, RT, from Lugansk region.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has announced his candidacy for the U.S. presidential election in 2024. A known anti-vaccine campaigner, Kennedy is seen as an unlikely choice for the Democratic nomination, as President Joe Biden has yet to announce a run for re-election. Kennedy is a well-known environmental lawyer, the nephew of President John F. Kennedy, and the son of the assassinated Senator Robert F. Kennedy. Kennedy states that his top priority as president would be to end the corrupt merger between state and corporate power, which he believes has devastated the economy, polluted the environment, and damaged American values and freedoms. His anti-vaccine views have been widely criticized by his own family members. In 2019, 3 other family members wrote an op-ed in Politico condemning Kennedy's anti-vaccine views. Despite the controversy, Kennedy's stance has found a new audience during the COVID-19 pandemic, with revenues to his anti-vaccine group, Children's Health Defense, doubling to $6.8 million.
Less than a day after Donald Trump's arrest, he demands for the defunding of the Department of Justice and FBI. Trump posted on his social media site, Truth Social, Republicans in Congress should defund the DOJ and FBI until they come to their senses. He adds that Democrats have totally weaponized law enforcement in the country and are viciously using this abuse of power to interfere with elections. The comments come after he pleaded not guilty to criminal charges in New York related to falsification of business records in connection with the 2016 elections. House Judiciary Committee Chair Jim Jordan also urges for the Republican-led House to limit federal law enforcement's funds. Few members of the Senate have expressed their objections with the demand. Some say that reforms may be in order, but defunding is not a possibility. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham says funds are needed in the continuous battle against terrorism, and a moment of disorder can be dangerous to the public. Up next, Care for Humanity responds to struggling Vanuatu residents. Health Minister declares COVID-19 pandemic over in Germany. Italian ex-Prime Minister spends the night in intensive care. Stay tuned, we've got more stories coming your way when Mata ng Agila International returns.
Naghahanap ba kayo ng napakasarap nakakatakam. Naku, samahan nyo na kami sa Under the Sea episode ng Lutong Daza. Nagda-dive. Okay, sige po. Bye po. Inuwi na pala. Sa Sabado na po yan, 11 a.m. dito lang sa Net 25. And I thank you.
Miss Universe Philippines Makati City 2021 and the cast of Quezon Comedy Theater. For more live and updates, please don't forget to like and subscribe to Net25 TV.
Let's get together, so Net25.
While a stunning archipelago in the South Pacific, Vanuatu faces a growing concern: food insecurity. But let's take a look at how a group of volunteers in their humanitarian effort would assist in providing food security and something even greater. Ricky Matay tells us more.
1,100 miles east of Australia, a display of 83 beautiful islands. While still a tourism favorite, the harsh reality of poor living conditions is still seen here. Adding COVID to the equation, drastic decline on tourism and food imports have brought another reality: food insecurity affecting over 20% of its population. But even in these conditions, people like Madeline have found a sense of hope because of an ongoing humanitarian effort that provides aid to help fight food insecurity here in Vanuatu.
Really big club us, we really appreciate them. Teams within Savitam, give him lo basket, give him one on basket lo members lo communities around lo school. And one and way for donating the number schools a day. Me really happy him and me really appreciate him.
Madeline appreciates that as a school principal of this local elementary school, the Care for Humanity project came to provide food care packages not only on her island of Ori, but other islands also experiencing food insecurity. Locations such as Port Villa, food care packages are provided to families in need. And in Tanaa Island, people gathering at Lamenu Stadium receive timely aid. And Ori Island and Espiritu Santo residents are also being given timely assistance. All of this is aimed in providing assistance to impoverished areas and underserved communities around the world, and now again, happening in Vanuatu. Assistance extending to providing means of livelihood, the Church of Christ provided seminars in sewing, in making clothing, in crop harvesting, and cooking with crops available to locals. And this care for fellow man is not the first for Vanuatu.
Get welcome today, especially the communities around our mama and girls. Only learn on something today. No sewing especially, we believe most of these mamas, they don't have sewing machine. And today it was the first time to put the hands on.
The thread at the back. Okay.
We also teach the people in Vanuatu for some livelihood programs like cooking and doing some recipes from the products or crops that they harvested over there.
As the ongoing mission in past events to help those in need, whether through food packages and medical missions, it still remains the same today, but with a more intensified effort. This effort making residents eager in learning more about such kindness coming from this church through evangelical missions held throughout the islands.
There was even a place where we held an evangelical mission. Even if it was raining, people stay. People stay because they want to hear the truth. And then most of them registered as Bible students. And then the following day, there were people who went to our place of worship in Espiritu Santo and looking for ministers because they want to be registered as Bible students.
Madeline even offered her school for more people to learn about the love and concern she felt inside the Church of Christ after hearing the words of God taught in an evangelical mission.
I can say that they really love it, and hopefully they're going to come around to learn more here.
We can even use it if we need a place to hold the worship service so that they can attend. This is with the help of our Lord God that we are successful with this.
And already in the start of this year, with more people learning about the truth and accepting it, greater results can be hoped for due to the ongoing work of loving one's fellow man through humanitarian efforts. Fighting food security coupled with hope. Ricky Mathay for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
In the U.S., more than 170 people die daily from traumatic brain injuries or TBI. With falls as the most common cause, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention offers tips on how to avoid them. Carlo Valdez reports.
Traumatic brain injury or TBI is a major cause of death and disability in the United States. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention or CDC says TBI contributes to about 30% of all injury deaths. It is caused by a bump, blow or jolt to the head, or a penetrating head injury that disrupts the normal function of the brain. CDC says falls are the most common cause of TBI. Being struck by or against an object and motor vehicle crashes are also common causes of TBI. Older adults, specifically those who are 75 years of age and older, are most at risk. Those who survive TBI can face effects lasting a few days to disabilities that last the rest of their lives. These include impairment in thinking or memory, movement, sensations or even emotional changes like personality changes or depression. CDC suggests that homes can be made safer for older adults by ridding of things you can trip over, adding grab bars inside and outside your tub or shower and next to the toilet, putting railings on both sides of the stairs, making sure your home has lots of light. In Union, New Jersey, Carlo Valdez for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The tech industry is in mourning following the tragic death of Bob Lee, the founder of Cash App and former chief technology officer of Square. The founder of the multi-billion-dollar company Cash App was fatally stabbed in San Francisco while attending a leadership summit and visiting friends. Lee was found unconscious with 2 stab wounds to his chest and later died in hospital. San Francisco police have yet to identify a suspect, and the investigation is still ongoing.
The World Health Organization warns that climate change is spurring the surge in arboviruses. WHO coordinator in Arbovirus Initiative, Raman Velayudhan, says climate change plays a key role in the spread of vector mosquitoes. Arboviruses, or orthopod-borne viruses such as dengue, Zika, and chikungunya, are carried by the Aedes aegypti mosquitoes. Experts say about 129 countries are already at risk from dengue, including 100 countries where the disease is endemic. Meanwhile, increasing cases have grown exponentially in recent years, leaping from almost 500,000 in 2000 to nearly 5.2 million in 2019. Regions in South America and Europe are reported with a high transmission of arboviruses.
Germany has officially declared an end to the COVID-19 pandemic based on favorable data on virus variants, vaccination rates, and hospital cases. German Health Minister Karl Lauterbach made the announcement in a tweet. While the announcement is being met with optimism and relief, the health minister notes COVID remains a threat for the future. Lauterbach adds that some of the restrictions, such as long school closures, may not have been necessary. The news is welcomed by German citizens who are eager to resume their pre-pandemic lives. Starting today, all protective government measures against the pandemic will come to an end.
Italian ex-Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi spent the night in intensive care after being admitted to a cardiac unit. The 86-year-old media mogul and senator has been in and out of the hospital in recent years. He was earlier visited by close family members at Milan San Rafael Hospital. Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani said Berlusconi was in intensive care because of a problem concerning an unresolved infection. Italian media reported Berlusconi was rushed to hospital after complaining of breathing difficulties. The billionaire leader of the right-wing Forza Italia party has been a dominant player in his nation's politics for decades.
Unions in France say talks with the government over pension reforms have been a failure. And following Wednesday's meeting, union leaders called for a record turnout at protest rallies today. Union leaders met here with Prime Minister Elizabeth Borne in a last-ditch attempt to ease tensions over the divisive changes. Going into the meeting, the labor leaders vowed to walk out if the government did not back down on raising the retirement age from 62 to 64. After Borne refused, union chiefs called for a nationwide general strike. They say they will continue the action until the government realizes there is no way out other than withdrawing the reforms. The country got a glimpse of the action Wednesday when the government shut down the iconic Arc de Triomphe for about an hour. Workers from the cultural sector unfurled a banner to protest the pension reforms. The protests have been going on since January. But after peaking on March 7th, when more than 1.2 million people marched against the reforms, the crowds have been getting smaller.
Police in Scotland released on Wednesday the husband of former Scottish leader Nicola Sturgeon after he was arrested as part of an investigation into financial irregularities. Peter Murrell is the former chief executive of the Scottish National Party, or SNP, formerly led by Sturgeon. Murrell's arrest sent shockwaves through Scotland's ruling party. Scotland police said Murrell was released without charge pending further investigation. Police had earlier raided the SNP headquarters in Edinburgh and the Glasgow home of Murrell and Sturgeon. Authorities are probing the party's finances. Murrell has long faced questions over the alleged diversion of £600,000 in SNP donations that were meant to support its drive for Scottish independence. He also failed to declare a personal loan to the SNP of more than £100,000, something that could breach laws on political funding transparency. In a statement to broadcasters, a spokesperson for Sturgeon said it would not be appropriate to comment on a live police investigation.
Top United Nations officials have a warning for the Taliban government. They say banning Afghan women from working would violate the World Bodies Charter. The UN demands the ban be revoked. Taliban authorities have imposed a slew of restrictions on Afghan women since seizing power in 2021. These include banning them from higher education and many government jobs. The increasing curbs are reminiscent of the Taliban's first government between 1996 and 2001. This was when the UN said the Taliban were responsible for repeated human rights violations, particularly against girls and women. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres demands the ban be immediately revoked.
The Secretary General emphasizes that female staff members are essential to the United Nations operations, including in the delivery of life-saving assistance, and that the enforcement of this decision will harm the Afghan people, millions of whom need assistance. The Secretary General calls on the Taliban to immediately revoke the decision and reverse all measures that restrict women's rights and girls' rights to work, education, and freedom of movement.
Families of women murdered by men protest in defense of a prominent Turkish anti-femicide campaign group. The group is being accused of activity against law and morals. Prosecutors filed a lawsuit in April against We Will Stop Femicide platform. The group is one of Turkey's leading feminist organizations. If convicted, it could be shut down. The group has been campaigning against the murder and abuse of women since its foundation in 2010. Protesters gathered alongside the families of murdered women outside Istanbul's main court. This ahead of the third hearing in the case. Representative Gulsum Kaf says they will defend the rights of everyone whose lives were stolen in the country. The We Will Stop Femicide platform was founded a year after a high-profile murder case of 18-year-old Münevver Karabulut. Her body was dumped into a waste container in Istanbul. The suspect managed to evade justice for more than 6 months. The murder sparked widespread uproar and repulsion. An invasive pest known for choking waterways in many parts of the world is proving an unlikely source of fuel in flood-stricken South Sudan. It is called the water hyacinth. This fast-growing aquatic weed is rich in biomass, organic material that produces energy. It is being harvested and turned into briquettes for use in heating and cooking. As a fuel, it is cheaper than wood-based charcoal and safer to collect than firewood.
Now, these sorts of things are absolutely critical going forward because it will help families live with the floodwaters that they now find around their communities.
The U.S. National Weather Service has issued a fire warning as wildfires are currently blazing through Custer County in western Oklahoma. Officials say the wildfire in the area is picking up speed, heading to the east and northeast. An estimated 1,550 acres of land have been burned. Evacuations are now in order for portions of Custer County. Crews are in place to battle the wildfires to avoid nearby cities. Coming right up, Walmart lays off 2,000 warehouse staff. Barbie drops second trailer. And NBA announces BTS's Suga as its newest ambassador. Catch the latest in business, sports, and entertainment. Mata ng Agila International will be back.
Isa sa pinakapopular na bagay sa ating bansa ang kagustuhang maging maputi. Kaya isa rin itong malaking oportunidad na pasukin sa pagninegosyo. The Filipinos' love for clean looks, fair-skinned and looking good in general has turned into a multi-million peso enterprise. Magpapahuli ka pa ba? So let's find out more from a hard-working entrepreneur who uncovered a gold mine through his aquaskin endeavor, Mr. Jeffrey Geronimo, founder and general manager of Aquaskin Philippines.
Sa line of business ko, aside sa pagiging nurse ko and entrepreneur, nakita ko yung potential ng health and beauty industry.
Open for Business with Cesar Vallejos, Sunday, 9 p.m.
For the second year running, the town of Denain in northern France is distributing vouchers to its residents regardless of their income. The 50-euro vouchers can be used at local shops to help combat the rising cost of living. The town mayor says any assistance coming from the state is not enough to meet the rising cost of living. So the vouchers coming from the town is a big help to residents and local businesses.
L'assistanat n'est pas l'assistance. L'assistance, c'est le coup de main qu'on donne à nos concitoyens. Et là, c'est pour tout le monde. On ne peut pas dire c'est pour certains, c'est toujours pour les mêmes. Vous savez, ces discours qui font que pas mal des gens sont exclus. Il y a des gens qui travaillent, ce sont des travailleurs pauvres, qui ont du mal à boucler les fins de mois. Et ces gens-là n'ont jamais droit à rien. Et bien là, ils y ont droit. Et puis, c'est aussi un sacré coup de pouce pour nos commerçants. Parce que c'est dans le commerce local que ça va être dépensé. L'année dernière...
Walmart has laid off more than 2,000 employees from its e-commerce facilities across 4 states. The layoffs have been a result of the company's retailers' declining sales, inflation, and the shift back to in-store buying after the pandemic online spending boom. Most of the laid-off workers work in the evening and weekend shifts at the fulfillment centers. Walmart recently stated that it is adjusting the staffing at its fulfillment centers to better prepare for the needs of customers or consumers. Reports said the company is in discussions with the affected employees about career options at other Walmart locations. The retail giant also informed its investors to expect slower sales and profit growth for the coming fiscal year. Walmart also said that it is raising its average minimum wage from $12 to $14 per hour, which started on March 2.
In the world of running, half marathons are useful in training for a full 26-mile race. They are also an excellent alternative for those looking for a challenge at shorter distances. In Los Angeles, California, Even and Alan speak with runners about their half marathon pathway.
At a little over 26 miles, a marathon might be an intimidating prospect for some. And that's where a 5K or maybe a half marathon might become a viable option for others.
These distances are by no means easy and are important in training for races with greater mileage.
I'm training for Boston Marathon, but I was using this as a training run. The energy was amazing. I mean, the crowds were incredible. I mean, there was cheering from start to finish. There wasn't any times that I recall where people weren't cheering and had bells and whistles and everything. So the energy was electric. The only thing with the half, so the half at mile 2, you merge in with the full, so you're bobbing and weaving the entire way through some of the marathoners that were like in the back. So that was the most difficult part because you're kind of moving around, and when you're trying to get water or whatnot, it's kind of difficult to stop at the water stations and everything because you literally constantly from mile 2 to the finish, you're running around people the entire time. Just the bobbing and weaving kind of messes with you mentally, but I look at it as good training, you know? It's benefit to it all.
So I use the race as training for a Paris marathon. My first marathon is coming up. What really makes this half marathon unique, like I'm a black woman, I'm an African-American woman, and you won't see a lot of black women running. So to finish as one of the first black women in this race really means a lot to me. I feel like I represent people who want to road race but need to see someone like me. The objective is to just start and just finish. And if you can just have that objective, you will go so far.
A number of runners we spoke with agree that a one foot after the other mentality is needed to finish a race.
But starting a race, well, that begins long before the first step is even taken, when a person decides to identify their own limits and then push past them.
Reporting from Los Angeles, California, Evan Allen from Matandang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Warner Brothers has released the second Barbie trailer. The new teaser trailer begins with an overhead shot of Barbie Land and a close-up of the titular character, taking off pink heels with her feet staying in the same position. It also shows more glimpses of Barbie Land, like a water park and Margot Robbie's Barbie driving through town in a pink convertible car. Clips of the ensemble cast are then seen, including Will Ferrell's character looking in awe as Robbie's character walks into his office. Apart from the trailer, Warner Brothers released character posters for the sprawling cast of Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, Simu Liu, Dua Lipa, Michael Cera, and Will Ferrell. Barbie releases in Philippine cinemas on July 19.
The National Basketball Association, or NBA, together with Big Hit Music, announced that BTS's Suga is its new ambassador. The video announcement was posted on the league's official Twitter account. The K-pop superstar was featured on the video, revealing that he has become an NBA ambassador. He says that it's personally an honor for him because he loved basketball since he was young. Suga has been an avid fan of the league, watching games courtside and taking pictures with NBA stars. NBA Deputy Commissioner and Chief Operating Officer Mark Tatum says they are looking forward to working with Suga to bring the same excitement from his global fan base in support of their continued efforts to grow their brand. As an ambassador, Suga will have engagements with NBA fans around the world throughout the remainder of the current NBA season. The league will also have a presence in Suga's first solo world tour. They will collaborate in selected concerts to celebrate the release of Suga's debut solo album, D-Day.
In the U.S., spring travel is on. We asked our neighbors there about tips and tricks they can share on how to enjoy vacationing without spending too much on unnecessary things. Michael Hudson reports.
Hey folks, who here loves to travel? Personally, I can't get enough of it. There's something so liberating about exploring new places, meeting new people, and trying new foods. And you know what they say, travel is the only thing you can buy that makes you richer.
I love to travel a lot. My favorite destination that I like to go to is in the Philippines, Palawan, El Nido, to be specific.
The best place for me is Turkey. And I would like to go to Turkey. There's a lot of historical places.
You know, I've been to Europe. I've been, last year I went road tripping all across the U.S. And yeah, I could definitely name, a few places I would enjoy going back to. So this cabin that used to be my grandpa's back, he homesteaded some land in the Mojave Desert back in the early 1960s, had his cabin built. And I've been going out there since the 1980s.
My favorite travel destination has been Crazy Horse Monument. I enjoyed going to Mount Rushmore, but Crazy Horse I found far more interesting.
So one of my favorite places to visit, when I go there, it's the south part of Albania. They have really good tropical beaches, and I just have such a blast when I go there.
My favorite place to visit is Hawaii. Why do I love Hawaii? Not only the people, the weather, the places to visit are amazing. I love going to the beach. I love just laying on the white sand. I love the Big Island. It's my favorite. Out of all the islands, there's 8 of them.
And it was really cool. Like, it was totally fine traveling by myself. Last year, I went on a road trip across the U.S., over 10,000 miles, 42 days on the road, and that was definitely a really, really cool experience. what I really enjoy about solo travel is it's all on me, my own time. I decide where I want to go, how long I want to stay there. You know, that's it. I mean, it's completely flexible.
Yes, there are a lot of pluses to traveling alone because you can set your own itinerary. But traveling with at least one other person, you have someone there that you can talk about the experience with and discuss it and get excited with them over what you're seeing.
How I budget for it is that I save up for at least a year so that I can prepare for the next year. I make sure that I save up by really prioritizing things that the wants and needs. I want to make sure that I just don't buy things if I don't need it.
One really big thing that I would suggest is to bring sunscreen. Anytime you even walk out the door there, you need to protect your skin.
A few travel tips if you ever get to visit Albania, it's try any food possible. Even if it's street food, favorites. They're all good, they're very clean, so worth it.
Whether it's a quick weekend getaway or a long-term backpacking trip, travel opens your eyes to new perspectives and experiences. So if you haven't done so already, make sure you book that flight, pack that bag, and hit the road, and trust me, you won't regret it. Michael Hudson for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Who is not excited to travel after the pandemic? Well, to end your Thursday night, here's a quote from Canadian novelist William Patrick Kinsella. Success is getting what you want. Happiness is wanting what you get.
For me, I stopped measuring success, and what I strive for is happiness. So
That's right.
If I achieve happiness in myself, that is my success.
And you know what? No matter how you turn things around or you juggle between things, trying to figure out what is what or which is which, I think contentment is key to real happiness and success.
Yes, the perfect way to end tonight's evening. That's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Randy Bernardino.
And I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.